Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we are finally going to be talking about the newest album from Sara Bareilles called Amidst the Chaos. You know, for all the releases over the past couple of weeks, it seems like this album is one of those that has flown under the radar the most. And it's not really hard to see why. Outside of the singles, most of the mainstream seems to have a bit of a touch-and-go relationship with Sara Bareilles' brand of sharply written adult alternative / indie pop. They're not going to complain about getting tunes like Love Song or King of Anything or even Brave, but they're not exactly going to go out of their way to find more from her, which is kind of a shame, because while I would struggle to put her among the upper tier of piano-driven indie, pop rock, soft rock, adult alternative, it's a crowded field, and while I think her albums are consistently pretty good, I would struggle to call her great across the board, but I do think Sara Bareilles has a lot going for her with a strident vocal tone, some well-structured lyrics, and a pop sensibility that can give her a sense of accessibility and make her a lot easier to revisit than a lot of her peers. That being said, the flip side to all of it is that if she can't deliver the hooks or a more striking or interesting performance or lyrics, it's very easy to brush her music aside. As much as I think that there are some underrated album cuts on her 2013 album, The Blessed Unrest, some underwhelming compositions and slightly oversold production combined with some weaker writing, it did leave the album as rather forgettable outside of Brave, or at the very least not as cutting as she has been in the past. Now, that review was one of the first I had ever put to a video before I even had a proper camera, so I was kind of curious to revisit her material over 1,000 reviews later, especially given this album was coming off a lot of well-received stage work and she was looking to get a fair bit more political. Now, what caught more of my interest were some co-writing credits from Laurie McKenna, who I still hold as one of the best writers working in music of any genre right now, so I'll admit, I had some high expectations yet again. So what did we find on Amidst the Chaos? Alright, I'll freely admit it was my plan to put this on the trailing edge, because at the end of the day, it's a Sara Bareilles album that as a whole probably will not change your mind on whether you're going to need to hear it. But that was also before I gave the newest Ways Blood album a half dozen listens and realized that I somehow had even less to say about that, and then I remembered that at least Sara Bareilles had songs with distinctive hooks and punch, even if it's all in a very safe, middle-brow way that I question would move any sort of needle. So yeah, I guess I'm reviewing this. Now granted, that in and of itself is a fascinating question surrounding some of the politics and social commentary in art, so let me bring back my 3 Ps for good political art and start off with the content. Because yes, you can make the argument that simply through its more accessible, inviting delivery, especially coming a few years after the rage might have cooled in the general public, this album does have a certain easy, populist appeal, hashtag resistance sort of thing. Hell, as much as it's an easy and very accurate stereotype of the white coffee shop liberal, whose brand of rebellion is mild-mannered and best served by numbers rather than intensity or precision, it's hard to avoid the truth that there's a lot more of them than the folks who actually take the radical progressive stances, and art like this pushes them gently enough in a good direction, so there might be a place for it. But there are a couple problems with those assumptions, namely that this is the sort of rebellion that rarely drives the systemic change that can really shake things up in a good way, and yet since it's the most marketable, it tends to attract the most attention, and more importantly, as a critic of the art who appreciates complexity, this sort of album, it rarely proves as challenging or thought-provoking or as visceral as the more radical stuff. And again, Sara Bareilles might as well be the poster child of some of the acts in this very safe lane with this album. And I'll be blunt, when the political commentary does happen, it's kind of hard to take it all that seriously. And that's where my other 2 Ps of the guidelines for political art come in, the power and the precision. She's got the populism, while she might have some wider appeal when she makes statements that some of her otherwise pretty standard breakup ballads, such as No Such Thing and If I Can't Have You, they're framed as the former US President Barack Obama. It'd be a little jarring, kind of silly to take in. I mean, I don't doubt her intentions here are altruistic or possibly good, but when you have songs like Armor and A Safe Place to Land that point at the Kavanaugh confirmations and the separations at the border, there's a certain lack of raw intensity and urgency and precision that kind of blunts the impact, not helped by some broader poetry, less sizzle in the production, vocal delivery that can't even match her rougher or angrier songs in the past, and some really sloppy sequencing. I mean, the one song that seems to get close to capturing the unease and disorder of the past couple years is Eyes on You, even if it is sort of the backdrop to many of these songs. But even on that track, track. It feels scattered, more reliant on a good hook and a slightly rougher groove than anything that's all that dark in the writing. And I only bring this much attention to it because if these songs worked nearly as well as the more detailed or textured relationship songs, it wouldn't be an issue. Not even that they're bad, but when Sara Bareilles sticks the landing, she's got some great songs here. A lot of this is helped by the production from T-Bone Burnett, more organic and stripped back, leaning into some R&B and soul textures, but not in a way that feels gaudy or obtrusive or oversold. But you can also tell that Sara Bareilles is pulling from her recent experience in theater to craft bigger soundscapes and melodies that aim to pull a little harder. She makes some great yearning music, if that makes any sense, where the emotion might be straightforward on the surface, but there are some subtleties to be pulled forward from the well, and that's one reason why her more detailed songs do cut deeper. They draw out those subtleties. The burned out exasperation of Fire, the pleas for trust in the relationship amidst a chaotic world on Orpheus, and perhaps my favorite on Poetry by Dead Men, where she truly wanted the relationship to stick the landing but was left high and dry by his indecision, with just enough mundane details to really set the scene. And that's a trick that the Laurie McKenna co-written Miss Simone also nails in its romantic vibe, and some of the details in the quest for truth on Saint Honesty. And here's the thing, even with the big hooks that this album just nails on songs like Fire and Eyes on You and Orpheus, mostly thanks to some really good vocal multi-tracking, you do need some of that songwriter's instinct given how spare some of the instrumentals can feel. Just add a little bit more color, because once again, the grooves seem like they've been given a lot more attention than the melodies, most of which are just allowed to loop in terms of like the pianos or some of the acoustic guitars, or in the case of the electric guitars, just sizzle and sputter in the background. Now don't get me wrong, it's organic, it's textured, it's tasteful, and lends Sara Bareilles' music more soulfulness than you would ever expect. But for as good as the hooks are, you gotta wonder if the tune was really developed or allowed to really take off and get more theatrical, how much these songs could really soar. And that also goes for songs like Armor, where the lumbering melody never quite coalesces, or songs like If I Can't Have You or Someone Who Loves Me, where in the former case, not even the key change can make up for a rather underwhelming composition. There is album filler on this project that just is not all that interesting. But at the end of the day, look, I'm kind of exasperated reviewing this album for many of the same reasons I'm constantly exasperating when I cover John Legend or Alicia Keys or Common or Josh Groban or really any number of modern adult alternative acts over the past decade, because there is a ton of raw talent and ability to sell big ideas in a compelling way, but there's something kind of calculated in how their big chances are not being taken, because that could potentially jeopardize their middle-of-the-road audience who wouldn't know the difference if they took the chances. And yeah, that group that might be scared off by the slightest hint of distortion, they need music too. But I think back to the 90s, where that era of writers made up for it with sharper poetry, or if they got more political, there were enough hidden knives to really cut if you're paying attention. That's one big reason I've praised artists like Laurie McKenna so much in her brand of Americana. The instrumentation isn't that abrasive or sharp, but she's mastered that cutting stroke in her writing. But I don't know, I feel like Sara Bareilles' attempts to make meaningful statements kind of fall flat, because they demand either more complexity or intensity to make an impact, especially when she's capable of delivering both when she steps into more personal material. And yet, you know what? It's that personal material that's just great enough to knock this up to a light 7 out of 10. Again, the good songs here are genuinely great. I will go back to them. And I do think this to be an improvement over the Blessed Unrest, which I probably overrated a couple of years back. So you know what? If you or a parent or a friend who are in the market for a project like this in the passing Starbucks, I don't know, give it a listen. It's fine, it's good. Otherwise, a few singles, check out the better ones. Otherwise, you can probably move on. It's not all that chaotic, after all. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. Yes, I know I'm late to the punch with this one, and I know some of you want me to cover Way's Blood. That might go on the trailing edge, it might not. I need to give that a couple more listens, but it's not giving me a lot to say. Beyond that though, the new Sara Bareilles album, if you want to buy or stream it, links down there below, and I got the poll up there for y'all. Tell me how wrong I am. Actually, I don't really think I am on this one, and I don't know if her fan base is going to be dedicated enough to drive that in any direction, so we'll see. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And once again, a reminder that I've got a new channel set up for Billboard Breakdown, so if you want to see that, the link is in the title card right over there. Happy to have you guys come over. The channel's grown really well over the past couple of weeks. I really appreciate that. But hey, till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse. and I'll see you next time.